grew up in the Virginia suburbs just outside Washington, D.C. In the 70s, I listened to all kinds of music, although I didn't start buying records until I was a teenager. My parents are European, so I spent many summers overseas where my taste in music began to form. By the time I was in junior high, I was heavily into 80s new wave, especially from Europe, Canada, and Australia. But when I turned 16, a new kid at school turned me on to punk rock, and I got my first electric guitar. Punk rock totally transformed my worldview, and I began jamming with different musicians and crafting my own fanzine. But as I was finishing high school, I still hadn't put together a full band, and started wondering if it would ever happen. After graduation, I briefly formed a punk band. We did photo shoots, wrote songs, but we never left our practice space. Once I started working full-time, I put down my guitar and became a freelance rock journalist, writing for Flipside out of Los Angeles and other publications. I interviewed bands, wrote articles and record reviews into the 90s, but the dream of forming my own band never left me. Darren had been a drummer since middle school, playing in metal bands until he discovered new wave in the early 80s. Captivated by the look and sound, especially out of the UK, he started drumming in new wave bands and tried to break into modeling. Although we never met at this time, his band played a show at my high school. His school was just down the road from mine. After high school, Darren got into the DC nightclub scene, where house music was just catching fire in the early 90s. It wasn't long before he and his friend August joined up with a dance producer to put out house tracks with Darren on vocals. By this time, Darren was more interested in fronting a band than drumming for one, and focused mostly on singing. Once that project ran its course, Darren returned to his first love, new wave, and began producing demos with his friend Andy. In 1993, Darren and I met at work. I could tell he was a musician by his haircut. Once he found out I played guitar, it was on. In the months that followed, Darren and I began to form a band. We both had similar goals: to write, record, and perform originals. Finally, I had met someone with the same determination to make it happen. By 1994, things were falling into place.